Okay, so I'm about to enter the nice road. Let me just deal with the toll guys first, and I'll resume talking. So the topic of this video is going to be my 10 plus months of ownership, and from that what are my top 3 all-time likes and my top 2 peeves or dislikes or improvement areas, whichever way you want to think about it. So yeah, so let me do that. Right then, so let me start with the negatives or the so-called improvement areas. I have 2 of them from my almost about 14 points of dislike that I have written down. So I have managed to winnow through them, sift through them, mine through them, and I have managed to pick what are the top 2 things that I don't like. Okay, so number 1, this may come as a bit of a nitpick or a bit of a first world problem to some of you. It remains the placement of the turn signal and the horn signal. Now I know that this is something that I have spoken about in the past as well, and I had hoped that with time dealing with this would tend to become a bit easier, which it has to some extent, but because of the fact that I ride this bike in rotation with a lot of other two-wheelers, which is the Activa, which I ride fairly frequently, the Himalayan and the Versys 650. Every now and then I do come across situations where I am behind somebody. I want to take a turn and I intend to actually turn on the turn signal, but end up pressing the horn instead, and that has led to a bit of annoyance from whoever is in front of me. They are probably wondering, why is this guy honking? The road is all clear, he can easily overtake me and go, all those sorts of things, but it's because of how these switches are placed. Now this is almost the sort of thing where there needs to be some sort of a universal standard among the automobile manufacturers. Nobody should be allowed to take a different direction in these sort of things, because they are not only a bit of housekeeping or hygiene factors, but they involve safety as well. This is like that other thing where in a car, if you are there again needs to be a universal standard for where the 2 rods on the either side of the steering wheel need to be, and there needs to be standardization that one rod, one stick does the wipers and the other stick does the indicators, the turn signal. If those keep getting mixed up, which a lot of manufacturers tend to do, so again that leads to a situation where when I intend to engage the turn signal, I end up switching on the wipers, and really not a good place to be in. So first one is the placement of the horn and the turn signal. The second one is sort of a major one, at least for me, and again for some of you it may come across as more of a first world problem, but the way the whole gearing and the power aspects have been designed in the engine. Now let me break this down. So typically what tends to happen is, in real world usage, this is a tall geared bike, as most of you already know by now, and in the city what that actually translates to is a lot of gear changes. So consider this. So even though it has got one of the best in class slipper assist clutch, which is one of the lightest clutches that I've ever operated on any motorcycle, but because of the gearing and because of the city traffic and the volumes, by the sheer amount of the clutch presses that I have to do, like this, it starts getting to my wrists and palms after a while. So that is one thing. And secondly, you will never ever cross a speed breaker on any other gear other than the first gear, which is a bit of a bummer. And when I have attempted to do some quick passes or quick overtakes in the second gear, most often it doesn't comply. So I always feel a bit of a drop in power. I again have to come back to the first gear, and then I am able to do the pass or the overtake. That is one. And in the city, because of all of this, if you are lucky, especially in a city like Bangalore and with its traffic, the maximum that you will get to see is gear number 3. You will never even see gear number 4 in the city. So this is the nature of how this engine has been designed. It's not necessarily a flaw, but it feels quite a bit different to most other bikes that I've ridden. Especially for somebody who's gotten used to the way the Royal Enfield feels in terms of the gearing, the torque and the power, comfort, especially within the city, this bike may slightly underwhelm. So that is something which I still continue to experience on a day-to-day basis. But having said that, these are very minor gripes. I wouldn't even categorize them as something major or something that should put a potential buyer off from making a decision to purchase this motorcycle. But these are very minor gripes. That's what I think. But these are the top 2 gripes or the improvement areas or the dislikes that make it into this comparison. Right, let's get on with the top 3 likes. So like number 1 is refinement. Absolutely my top most favorite feature of this motorcycle is refinement. And what does refinement actually mean to me? Let me break it down. So refinement is in terms of not only how smooth the overall bike feels, but I think it's more about predictability. So what I mean is, between the input and the response, there is quite a bit of predictability or a linear nature which really puts the rider at ease. I know that refinement is the hallmark of almost all major Japanese motorcycle makers, such as the Kawasaki, Suzuki or Yamaha, but I think Honda does it especially well among all the big 4. I have never once been sort of surprised or baffled by a lack of refinement on this motorcycle. So number 1 for me is refinement. Number 2, I think for me, has got to be the Speedo console. What I particularly like about it is, I think this is one of the most well thought out Speedo consoles. Not only is the speed analog and very well readable, very legible, but all of the other information which they have managed to pack into this unit right here, such as trip A and trip B, how much fuel is left, what is the real-time average fuel economy you're getting, and gear shift position, exactly which gear you are in, time. One of my most favorite features on a motorcycle is the time. And on this side of the console, it tells you whether your traction control is on, what's the status of your ABS, whether you are riding in economy or not, whether your stand is down, the side stand. I don't think there is much other information other than this which a rider really needs. So kudos to them on getting this speedometer console absolutely perfect. It's not a single thing which is lacking in this, and all of this within such a small unit right there doesn't detract from your view of the road, but gets the job done absolutely well. Now that's the definition of a job done really well to me. So the speedometer is my second all-time favorite like about this motorcycle. The third one, bit of a funny one, but again, without this, my everyday experience of riding this motorcycle would not be what it is. The sound, the exhaust sound. I tell you, It seems very medieval at times, that we are so taken in by sensory sort of input such as sound, but it's so very important, because that's the one thing which stays with you almost all the time while you're riding this motorcycle. And if it's not designed well enough, if it's not executed well enough, it can leave quite a bit of a bad aftertaste in the mouth. So the sound is very nice, although sometimes I have said that I wouldn't mind if it was a couple of notches down on the volume, but that's again just nitpicking. But the sound has got to be one of my most favorite all-time features on this motorcycle, the exhaust sound. And I'll tell you where it particularly brings a smile on my face, and it happens almost every time. So whenever I am parked at a red light, whenever I have stopped at a red light, and the light is about to turn green, I turn the ignition on. So I normally turn off the ignition at stoplights, and when it's about to turn green, I turn the ignition on. And when I crank the engine, the sound when it starts, oh boy, I don't know why it is, especially at stoplights, when it starts, always brings a smile on my face. It's like something substantial has just come alive. So even now I'm on the highway, I'm on the nice road, the sound is such beautiful symphony to my ears. It's really amazing. And most manufacturers undermine the importance of this aspect of a motorcycle. How seriously the Honda team took the sound into consideration is obviously borne by the fact that when they were releasing teasers just before they actually officially launched this motorcycle, the sound was all that they kept playing in the teasers. So that's how seriously the Honda engineers took the sound aspect into designing the overall motorcycle, and it shows, it absolutely shows. So those were my top 3 likes, all-time likes, in the 10 plus months of owning and riding this motorcycle on a frequent basis, and a couple of improvement areas or weaknesses or nitpicks, whichever way you want to look at it. So with that, I hope it's been a bit of a informative video. Like I said, a full scope ownership report on this motorcycle is in the works. I have written down all the points that I'd like to discuss and talk about. That video will happen very soon, and you will get a lot more insights into what it feels like to own and ride this motorcycle. And hopefully for the newer riders who are currently in the market trying to decide between this and any other competitor, most notably the all-new Classic 350, that video will be of interest in order to help you make the right decision. So with that, I hope you have a good rest of the week, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Take care, stay safe, bye.